Hello and welcome to a Forest Lines Forever ladder cast. We have Swkoll versus Fallen on Loki. Not quite sure how to pronounce Swkoll's name. Some have said it's pronounced Swkoll. Some just say SW Cole because they don't know how to deal with the lack of vowels here. By some I mean me. And I've also heard some folks pronounce it Swkoll, so we'll go with the one that's easiest to pronounce. Swkoll it is. Anyway, let's talk about the players and their initial positioning. Swkoll on the right side with red UEF, and Fallen on the left side with blue Cybran. Now we can see the map is Loki. Very popular 1 versus 1 map. This map has a very specific build order that most players do adhere to. Maybe it's arguably specific. There's definitely variations of it, but more or less what's consistent is an engineer, at least one engineer, heading down the right side. If you're on the right spawn, you'd be heading down towards the mexes and the hydro. And if you're on the left side, you'd be heading up towards the mexes and the hydro. You can see Fallen has sent 2 engineers with the attack move command. Attack move command with his land factory. But Swkoll has inputted some manual reclaim orders with this engineer. He is going to bypass this hydrocarbon with his first NG. Get just a little bit of reclaim with that single engineer and head all the way down with this engineer very quickly relative to Fallen. So Swkoll, more than anything, more than this tree reclaim, he wants these mexes quickly. And in fact, this build order is going to deprive him of potential energy income early on. Doesn't seem to concern him too much though. He's going to go with a 7 P-Gen, then Air Factory, which, well, it's gonna be a little harsh on his energy income, I think. Though some of these tree groups are getting reclaimed, thankfully. Maybe he won't do so poorly, but we definitely know for a fact that Fallen will get more energy reclaim overall. You can see that he's reclaimed 5,000 energy compared to Swkoll. It's going to allow him to build a lot of factories early on. You can see he's already has 3 land factories and an air factory, whereas Swkoll only has 2 land factories. Fallen also has 500 more mass reclaim total. Fallen with a strong reclaim game. However, we can see that Swkoll has more of the map covered. He's sent a mech marine down the left side, maybe anticipating that Fallen will send up some engineers. And he's not wrong, those engineers will make their way up at some point. Fallen headed towards the top left corner with his own ACU. With his ACU, rather, and Swkoll with his own ACU will head down to the right, bottom right mid-expansion over here with these 3 mexes. Swkoll is a little behind with his ACU movement. Looks like Swkoll does want to concentrate a lot of his initial units over here on the top left middle expansion. And Fallen just misses this engineer from Swkoll. And Swkoll, actually with a misclick, he fails to reclaim this rock. think he thought that he clicked it, but he only clicked on a tree. This is... Oh, and Fallen does manage to take out this ambitious move from Swkoll with these 4 Mantis. Well done. And will Swkoll manage to reclaim all of this rock reclaim? No. In fact, he only reclaimed the tree that time too. So Swkoll had the right idea, but he actually didn't do anything with that engineer except reclaim approximately 2 trees belonging to Fallen. Now, Swkoll does have a little raid of his own, a single tank about to deprive Fallen of this expansion. Fallen with no engineers nearby will not be able to rebuild this right mid-expansion. But that brings both players to equal footing in a way, maybe not so much now that I think about it. On the left side, in fact, Fallen still doesn't have these 2 mexes. In fact, he doesn't have this hydrocarbon either. Something I missed earlier that I think I might know what happened. It probably Swkoll had a bomber, took out some of these, because couldn't have sent a land unit over. And this is clearly an engineer that was building this hydrocarbon, so I think I missed some action over here. Swkoll succeeding in taking out this potential expansion from Fallen. Well done. Now, Fallen struggling to do the same against Swkoll. A land factory is already in place here on the bottom right corner. Should be easy for Swkoll to recover an engineer and rebuild here. Swkoll staying stable over here with his raid. Fallen has not responded to this raid very effectively. But his ACU is on the way. Fallen could have picked up this rock on the way, but he neglects it. And a drop from Fallen so as not to be too late in getting these 4 mexes on the top left. If Swkoll notices this, though, he might be able to take out a couple engineers before they put up a point of defense. Doesn't look like it's possible now, though. Already a little too late. They've well on their way to finishing that point defense now. Swkoll could consider sending these units elsewhere now that the ACU has arrived. These units won't be able to be effective for much longer. And a nice sort of unexpected move from Fallen here down the middle lane, where Swkoll does seem to have a dearth of units. If Fallen continues to maneuver down with his Mantis, he might be able to do some damage to Swkoll's core base. But Swkoll does catch wind. We can see by his troop movements that he's noticed that something is headed his way. Let's see what is... Yeah, he can see the blips on the radar. So Fallen going to have to abort this mission. Tech 2 mechs up now for Fallen, and you can see Swkoll has a Tech 2 mechs of his own. No advance in tech in terms of land production, though. Is Swkoll working on a Tech 2 land factory? Yes, he is. Halfway done with his Tech 2 land HQ is Swkoll. Doesn't seem to be anything in the works for Fallen, however. So we can expect to see some Tech 2 land for Swkoll before anything arrives for Fallen, and Fallen losing a few interceptors there. This is not the best place to leave your interceptors. And let's take a look at the total mass collected. Fallen, he's been pretty diligent with his reclaiming, and that nets him 17,000 mass 10 minutes and 20 seconds in, which is roughly around 1,000 more mass collected than Swkoll. And we can see that Swokoll's a little bit, he's snoozing with the reclaim over here. Most of the time, players will build a factory or two over here next to these mexes and try to reclaim all of these trees and all these rocks here. It should be a hefty chunk of reclaim to be had. Is it a hefty chunk? Not quite sure. I'm not quite sure how much mass this is in total. Evidently not that much, but it is a lot of energy reclaim. So we have some movement over here on the northern side of the map, but I think Fallen should have no problem dealing with this pressure from Swkoll. Similarly, on the bottom corner, we have some troop movements, but this grouping is even less substantial than that of Swkoll up here. I'd say these players are in roughly about equilibrium. The only difference is that Fallen is going for Tech 2 Air, and he does have more Tech 2 mexes. He has 5 Tech 2 mexes already. Swkoll a little behind in upgrading his mexes, instead focusing more of his resources on his Tech 2 land production. And we can see the Swkoll Sparky headed towards the upper left middle expansion. The Sparky is very typical of Swkoll. He always builds Sparky initially with the completion of his Tech 2 Land Factory HQ. Something to think about if you are playing against Swkoll. But I'd say it's a solid strategy to build a Sparky. They're pretty hardy with 1,040 HP, and they build those Tech 2 PDs pretty quickly. And they can defend themselves fairly well against a couple Tech 1 units, so this Sparky is gonna put some pressure on Fallen with a Tech 2 PD. And that Tech 2 gunship won't really be able to wield too much influence over here against Swkoll, since Swkoll has that interceptor grouping. And he does have air superiority, clearly. Fallen actually neglecting air, I think. Despite having a Tech 2 air factory, he doesn't have many interceptors at all. Not quite sure if he's ever had any interceptors. If he did, clearly they've all gone somewhere. I don't imagine they've gone on vacation. It's more likely they were never produced in the first place, or they were taken out by Swkoll. Swkoll's still behind in mass production, and I'm getting a little worried for him. 7 Tech 2 mexes for Fallen. Now he does have to be careful not to overproduce Tech 2 mexes, as that's going to be at the expense of... Oh, where did those interceptors come from? Perhaps I've been missing them all this time. some damage from this land group from Swkoll. This is not the best place to place your interceptors. Fallen does seem to have a tendency to place his interceptors where it's most dangerous. With Tech 2 Air and what appears to be more power production, Fallen theoretically should be able to produce more interceptors. Even though we do worry about Fallen overproducing Tech 2 mexes, so far Swkoll does not have the means to take advantage of any openings in Fallen's defenses. Fallen has a pretty solid system going on. He is putting in his due diligence with the scouting. He has units where they're most needed, and luckily for him, Swkoll is not being too aggressive. And looks like Swkoll is about to lose air, actually. Now, so Manus running into some stiff opposition from Swkoll. Swkoll has his ACU coming to the front, looks like Tech 2 ACU. And he's building point defense. And he's getting a little bit uncomfortably close to Fallen's core base. Might be cause for some worry from Fallen, who doesn't quite yet have full land production running at max capacity. I think Fallen's been concentrating very heavily on upgrading his mexes, as we've noticed before. And Fallen has been producing engineers more than anything, it looks like. Engineers comprising 103, 105 of his total population. And now if you look at the unit count, 300 units compared to Swkoll's almost 200. So that gives you somewhat of a glimpse into the production capabilities of each player. Fallen clearly with more ability to produce right now, with 73 mass income per second compared to Swkoll's 53 mass per second. Swkoll inching up slowly, reclaiming wherever he can. And let's take a look at the reclaim count. Fallen with 17,000 total reclaimed. He's been doing very well for himself in terms of the reclaim. So he's able to garner about 16,000 more mass total at minute 18. Swkoll definitely struggling here to keep up with Fallen's lightning pace. Fallen is on fire right now. He already has a brick on the field, not in the best, most ideal place. Well, actually that just changed. Swkoll with a couple Tech 2 mexes up now, which I think just finished upgrading. And as that brick approaches, those Tech 2 mexes look more and more like they won't be able to return or give anything back to Swkoll in terms of return on investment. Swkoll really needs to get something done, and he needs something to happen now. Transport drop looks like it's carrying a Tech 3 unit, but it's taken out. What was that unit actually? Not quite sure. Could be a loyalist, judging by the reclaim number here. And Swkoll has made it to Fallen's doorstep, but there are bricks. There are bricks at the ready. Does Swkoll have enough energy production to take out bricks? I don't think so. One overcharge, not even doing half that, half damage, or half the brick's health and damage. So Swkoll now put it in a very dangerous position, and there he goes. Knowing that he's about to explode, he types in the GG. Well played by Fallen. That was very fast development from Fallen, upgrading those mexes very quickly early on in the game. Swkoll, I think, just did not have enough reclaim at the outset, preventing him from upgrading his mexes at the pace of Fallen. We saw that Fallen was very diligent with his reclaim, just really pumping out those engineers everywhere. And this entire forest cleared out by Fallen, this forest as well, and all the trees over here, whereas Swkoll still has all these tree groups, all these rocks. That reclaim really adds up, and they could have contributed to Swkoll upgrading his mexes, but Fallen with that strong eco game, allowing him to ramp up production towards minute 20. And that gives him the means to defend against that push from Swkoll. So, not to mention these nice drops over here. Well played by Fallen. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next cast.